Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're all about the positive vibes here on the show. And with me right now, I've got a very special guest. He is a booker and producer of the wrestling promotion Precision Combat League. Wanted to make sure I got that right. Precision Combat League. He's got a story he's going to share with us today about his love of the business, how he got into it, and what he's doing now to help, spread awareness of helping out in the community. I'm pleased to welcome the one and only James Toney to the program. Welcome, James, to Wrestling with Heart.
Thank you so much. I am the boxing Reverend James Toney. In Mexico, they call me Reverendo del Boxeo, right? And I am an international heavyweight boxing champion. See, got this thing right here from USA Boxing. Oh, I just disappeared into my background. I should turn that off when I show. You know what? I'll show those belts off later when I turn this background off.
Okay.
But anyways, I got a couple of nice belts that I earned as a boxer, and I'm getting older, and I've been dabbling a little bit with pro wrestling, and it's just been one heck of a journey. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To go from boxing over into wrestling, and
there's a lot in common. It's a combat sport, so there's a lot of stuff that both sports can learn from each other, take from each other. But was getting into some kind of athletics, was that something you wanted to do since childhood?
well, in my childhood, my brother was always kind of a bully to me, and he picked on me a lot. And I remember I had to go to karate school to learn how to defend myself. So in West Denver, I went to a place called, I think it was called Tiger Kim's. It was in the old Villa Italia Mall. And I earned my yellow belt in karate, and I came back and I faced my older brother, and I beat him, and he said, "Oh, your muscles are bigger than mine now." And he didn't bully me anymore after that.
Oh.
But then when I was in middle school, like the 7th grade, I was really into amateur wrestling. I just would take anybody. I was like, I'll take anybody, I'll take anybody. And I kept wrestling and wrestling until I beat everybody on the team. And then there was this big guy, right? And he was like beating everybody. And everybody was getting beat so bad. And like one person after another would go in there, and there'd be blood all over the floor and the mat and stuff. And the coach said, "Go in there and wrestle him." And I said, "I don't want to go in there and wrestle him, coach. You know, everybody who's gone in there is getting blood. I don't want to do that. Please, I don't want to go in there. He's in a different weight class. This isn't fair." And that was at Rishel Middle School in Denver. And the coach said, "Well, if you're not going to go in there and wrestle him, you're off the team." And I got kicked off the team.
Wow.
So I was out of wrestling at 7th grade, right? Kind of had a troubled childhood, grew up mostly on the streets of downtown Denver. I had a whole bunch of street fights growing up. And long story short, I went back to college. I got my degree, but at the time I was in college, I was doing a lot of security guard work, unarmed security in Florida, like spring break, Black College reunion. I worked at Mary McLeod Bethune-Cookman College in Daytona Beach, as I earned my degrees in television video production, and I worked there for about 12 and a half years. And I had a family. Me and my wife, we've been together for 20 years, and we got a daughter who's like 18 years old now. And we graduated from Daytona State College with a bunch of degrees in television and video. But when I got older, I decided that I wanted to try to become the Golden Glove champion. Because I remember the first time I was boxing, I was like 16 years old, right? So I wanted to become the Golden Glove champion because when I was 16, we had this thing where we were in the church in Keensburg, and we were boxing in the fellowship hall. There was no ring or anything. It was just a couple of guys with gloves, and we were trying to impress the pastor's daughter, just beating the snot out of each other in the fellowship hall. And so I remembered that, and I said, I want to become a Golden Gloves fighter. But then I found out that I'm too old, that the only way you can win the Golden Gloves is if you're under 40 years old. And so at 38 or 40 years old, I became an amateur boxer with USA Boxing, and I started fighting in the novice class of the USA Boxing, right? And I started getting really good. I captured a couple of international titles in the novice class of USA Boxing, and I fought multiple world champions. And um, I had one world title fight where I was going to fight the world champion, and then I got into a bad accident and my wrist was shattered. And so I couldn't fight in the world championships. So they put a bunch of steel pins and screws in my wrist, and they said, you can never fight again. And then like a couple years later, they said, well, we lied to you. We just wanted you to take it easy. And they let me back in there. And so I fought multiple world champions, and I captured 2 international heavyweight titles. And then I moved to Kansas for Colorado because I had found a good deal on a house. And then all of a sudden the doctors didn't want to let me box anymore. I was totally devastated. But how I got into wrestling, right? How I got into pro wrestling. That was the question. What inspired me? How did I get into pro wrestling? Well, when I was a kid, I went to Florida Championship Wrestling, FCW. My granddaddy on my little brother's side, he he took us down to the Volusia County Fairgrounds. I think that's what it was, and they had Dusty Rhodes was down there, and it was the first time I ever seen wrestling, and it was the coolest thing. I really liked it, and Dusty Rhodes was instantly my favorite. And then because my parents had a divorce at a young age, I grew up in Daytona Beach, Florida, and in Denver at the same time, kind of like a ping pong back and
Yeah.
forth. So in Denver, I got to go to a place it's no longer there, but I got to go to a place called McNichols Arena and see this WrestleMania thing between Macho Man and Ric Flair. And I got to see these amazing matches where the Million Dollar Man was there. It was cool, like a lot of the old guys from the WWF, like the Junkyard Dog and Hillbilly Jim and stuff like that. I got to see all that stuff when I was a kid. And so I really loved it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so I never really got into wrestling as an adult, but then one day I was training for a world title, and then all of a sudden COVID hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
COVID hit, and then all the boxing schools were closed. I had nowhere to train, and I desperately wanted to train because I had this world title shot coming up. And so I went and I bought a ring from Monster Rings and Cages, and I ended up buying a pro wrestling ring instead of a boxing ring. And the minute that I got into the pro wrestling ring and started trying to train, I realized this was a huge mistake. Boxing ring is nothing like a pro wrestling ring. The floor is stiff on a boxing ring. On the wrestling ring, there's a flex beam, so there's a little bit of bounce to it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it's so hard to run sideways the way you do in boxing on a wrestling ring. So it turned out to be like a bad choice. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I should sell this wrestling ring, right? So I put the wrestling ring up for sale on Facebook Marketplace. And this was a few years ago, maybe, yeah, several years ago now. But I put it up there, and all of a sudden the phone blew up. Everybody wanted to buy the ring from me, but nobody could come up with the money. Everybody wanted the ring. Everybody like just begging me if they could have it. And so I said, okay, to this one kid, I said, I'll tell you what, you want to have a show? I'll let you borrow the ring if I can be in the show, right? So the kid was like, oh yeah, okay, sure, yeah. So I got together with this kid from Mexico, and he was just barely old enough to get in the ring. He was still training in wrestling school, and we started making shows together, and we became friends. And we made this idea that we're going to kind of bridge the gap between like lucha libre and traditional American pro wrestling. So we came up with this really awesome show. It was Lucha Libre International Championships,
Hmm.
and it's been pretty successful. It was one of the first pro wrestling shows I produced, and it's been a lot of fun. Over the last few years, I've been a ring announcer and an outside ring announcer for many boxing shows, but I've been almost done a dozen uh, wrestling shows as an in-ring announcer now. So I'm getting a lot of experience doing that. And oh, they have so much fun, man. I wish I could get in there and bump like that, do all those crazy things like suplexes and all that stuff. But, I'm 50 years old. The doctor's worried about my heart. I have to, if I want to box, I got to go to Colorado. They won't even, the doctors here in Kansas don't even want to let me box. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, that's where it is. I really love wrestling. I'm having a blast training in wrestling. I'm learning how to do some of the basic stuff because I've been a referee on a few shows, and the first time I did the referee thing, I really made a fool out of myself because I thought I knew what I was doing, and I kept getting in the wrestler's way and stuff. You know what I
Really?
mean? So yeah, so I really thought I knew what I was doing, but I kept getting in their way, and that would jeopardize the match a little bit. So yeah.
Well, I think it's what I think is cool is like you're able to realize a dream. You're never too old to really experience something like being a professional wrestler. You can still, at any age, you can still train and get into it, no matter how old you are. So it's amazing. It's cool that you're able to not only wrestle but also book shows and promote shows and get the community involved. So I think that's cool.
Well, I'm not really wrestling. Like for the most part, I'm just a ring announcer, but I'm trying
Hmm.
to learn like the full basics of pro
Right,
wrestling in case I have to jump in there as a referee because, I've got this the show must go on attitude.
right.
And if somebody doesn't show up, I'll try to fill in a hard spot. You know what I mean?
Well, there's
But
all kinds of
mostly I'm just
jobs.
the voice. Mostly I'm just the voice of the show. I get to be the manager of some boys, which is pretty good. I got some of the most powerful wrestlers in the world that I'm a manager for and stuff, and I really like what I'm doing. It's really fun.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're enjoying it and doing what you love, I mean, there's nothing else greater in the world. So it's amazing.
Well, there really is though. I'm not only doing this for fun. I decided, me and my friend from Mexico, who helped me come up with the Precision Combat TV networks, right? When we talked about that stuff, like I came up with some really great ideas, not just to bridge the gap between traditional American pro wrestling and freestyle lucha libre wrestling, which is a little different, but also we made a pretty nice, friendly, family friendly show, and it's been going pretty well. And I just decided that we're not going to have. It wasn't just me, actually. This was me and my friend. We decided that somewhere down the road, we want these shows to be for something, not just to make money or so we could be famous, but so that we could do something, some kind of good and stuff. You know what I mean? So we've been doing more of that. Our last show, we made a whole show to try to raise awareness for hydrocephalus, to try to put a stop to all these useless brain surgeries. You know, so we made a show to raise awareness for hydrocephalus, and it was just amazing. I mean, we've had shows where we would just want to like hand out a whole bunch of belts to the guys so we can establish who the champions are on our show, the guys who are always at our show, the guys who always come through for us, right? Those are the ones who usually end up being the champions on our show because they're so dedicated to the sport and they train so hard. That's why they capture all those titles and they get to keep them for so long because they're just so talented. I mean, these guys are just amazing. So Precision Combat League is now producing shows with heart. We're producing shows to raise awareness for hydrocephalus, and we're also talking about raising a show making a show called Do Unto Others, and it's going to be an episode of Precision Combat League. Precision Combat League was spelled with a K, not a C. It's PKL is the name of the wrestling show, and we're trying to make a show to help raise awareness for bullies, to try to stand up to bullies, because we want to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. So we're trying to make a show called Do Unto Others. But we also have a lot of regular stuff coming up, like Tournament of Champions, and a lot of these awesome wrestling superstars. They're going to have to defend their titles on that show, and there's probably going to be one more belt released, and it's going to be through a tournament, like a kind of like a tree process, like a evaluation process, to like everybody earns a title to see who gets it. See what I mean? Like a tournament tree. Yeah,
Yeah.
we were talking about doing something like that. But yeah,
What
we're still doing stuff for good causes.
what is it about giving back to the community that means a lot to you?
Precision Combat League, just that company itself, really wants to be more directed at uh, raising awareness for bully situation, like speaking out against bullying, and raising awareness for hydrocephalus and things like that. Really kind of ties into what we're doing. We're making a show that's not only PG, but we're making a show that's there's no cussing, there's no blood, there's no death match. I know that sounds kind of boring, but this show has all the stuff that you want to see in a pro wrestling show, but none of the stuff that you don't want to see. You know what I mean?
It's very
Like,
family friendly.
yeah, stuff that you don't want your kids to see. We're trying to get that whole thing off of there, because we don't want and it's really easy when you get in the heat of the moment out there, and they get really mad because whatever. Sometimes they're fighting over a title. You know what I mean? They're fighting over a great big title, and like they sometimes they get carried away, and I've seen them go as far as cussing and flipping each other off and things like that. But we have a show here that's it's not faith based. I mean, you're not going to church on our show. You don't come to Precision Combat League to listen to a sermon, but we do support good causes, and we want you to know that our stuff is really, really fun. It's fun to watch. Our shows are amazing, man. They're fun. I wish you could come and see one of them. I can
Yeah,
send you a
I
link if you want to
would
watch.
love to. Would love to.
Yeah, man.
Outside of wrestling, what charities have you worked with, or any organizations have you partnered up with?
Well, we like to invite everybody to join us to walk at the walk to end hydrocephalus, okay? Because here's a medical condition that many people die from, and there's no cure for it. But if they had a cure for it, then they could put a stop to so many brain surgeries. A person with hydrocephalus has to endure a lifetime of brain surgeries.
Mm.
And so we would like to invite you guys to the hydrocephalus.org website. You can look that up. So you can find out where if there's a walk near you. We'd like to invite everybody out September 14th at Red Bud Park in Littleton, Highlands Ranch, Colorado, for the Denver's Walk to End Hydrocephalus. And we would like for you to join to walk on Lydia Toney's team. She's the director of Precision Combat, and she wants to invite everybody in the wrestling community to come out and join her at the Denver's Walk to End Hydrocephalus. So that's the one charity that we work with, because my wife has hydrocephalus, and she's the director of the show, and the cause is dear to my heart, and I hope that one day we can cure this
Yeah,
thing.
I
You
mean,
know,
it just sounds horrible. I'm very sorry to hear that. I hopefully that.
well,
Oh,
Lydia's had to endure 6 brain surgeries.
mm,
You know, 6 brain surgeries she's had to endure, and with that, with the 6 brain surgeries that she's had to endure, if she didn't have to deal with that, well, I mean, can you just imagine if someone that you love has to keep going into brain surgery after brain surgery after brain surgery to have mechanical devices that get kinked and clogged and separated and they need replaced and this brain surgery after brain surgery.
Mm-hmm.
It's just horrible.
Yeah.
It's really the best cause to fight for.
Yeah.
I think a cure for hydrocephalus is in order. I mean, we can't just keep doing brain surgery after brain surgery to install and repair shunts. They need to find a cure for hydrocephalus. But anyways, so that's my main cause.
Hey, listen, James, this has been awesome having you on the show. It means a lot to me and to my listeners and viewers that are watching this on YouTube. I want to say thank you for coming on to Wrestling with Heart. Where can people find more about you and the Precision Combat League if they want to get in touch with you?
Okay, so Precision Combat League, we do have a Facebook, Precision Combat PKL Facebook, but we also have a channel with a lot of shows from many of the wrestling programs in the Midwest Alliance. There's a lot of shows here in the Midwest states that are working together to make shows together, and PKL is part of that, the Midwest Alliance. And some other alliances, we can't mention them all right here, but what you can do if you want to find this stuff is you can go and you can type search on YouTube, type in PKL 100-minute DVD. It should pull up Tournament of Champions. That's a good place to start. It's a little bit of it's a pretty nice little video, kind of gives you a little bit of, helps you get to know some of the champions, you know. And it's a pretty nice event we had at the VFW Fellowship Hall over there, the bingo parlor. It really exciting show. That's what's behind me on this virtual backdrop, by the way, is that show that I was talking about. It was really a great show. The best show that we've had so far has been Cheyenne Wells, Colorado. They were such a great crowd for us. And I want to send a shout out to Plex, the Livest Mex Plex, who really came in and saved the day. Him and Jay Sizzle came in. We hired Jay Sizzle to come on and be our ring announcer, and they did such a bang up job. And we really love what they did for our show. And also Midwest Elite Wrestling, they really helped us out and helped us put that show together. But also the wrestlers, the people who are dedicated to PKL, and they know that PKL is not just a regular wrestling show, but it's really a positive thing. It's a good thing, you know what I'm saying? Because we're wrestling with heart. See what I mean? Because our heart is in it, so we're in it. So if you want to find us, we have a channel on YouTube. It's Total Precision Combat TPK, and you can also find me on Jam Tone on Facebook. James Toney. I'm the Boxing Reverend. I do a lot of boxing shows. I've been producing boxing shows for many years, and now for just about 5 or 8 years, I've been dabbling with, creating our own show, and I really like it. It's a good show. I think you guys would like it too. Watch that Brawl to End Brain Surgeries. What an epic show that is.
I'll check it out.
I mean, the Livest Mex, he really came through for us on that show.
All right. Well, thanks again, James, and you're more than welcome to come back.
Oh, God bless you. Thanks for having me on the show today.
Absolutely. Take care. This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.